Hey, everybody. So, first of all, thanks for coming out. It's a lot of people here have traveled a long way, and I wanted to say thanks for coming. It's a really cool thing that Pi Ohio exists. Yeah, so at 10 o'clock, we're going to talk a lot more about important stuff. But first, we're going to hear from Qumisha Goss, or Q, as she prefers to be called. I sat in on her talk that she presented last year, and it was everything that I love about what's happening in the world right now. It was people learning stuff with the help of other people, improving their economic power, yada yada yada. We I don't know, it was just really really good stuff. And so when I was asked to chair Pi Ohio in 2017, one of the things I got to do was pick the keynoter, and I was really inspired by Q's talk last year. And so I asked her if she wouldn't mind coming back and talking this year, and I don't want to steal any of her thunder. But please give a warm welcome to Q, and thanks for coming out.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Everybody got their coffee, tea in hand? Good job. I didn't have mine. So, all right. My presentation is entitled Pie in the Sky. Okay. And this is a talk about diversity in technology and a talk about libraries. I am a technology librarian at the Detroit Public Library. I work at the Parkman branch, which is on the west side of Detroit, if you're familiar with it. Detroit Public Library has a total of 21 branches in the system throughout the city. And I'm also a certified Raspberry Pi educator. Went out to Mountain View, California, and got trained so I can help my kids with that. So, diversity in the status quo. You guys probably hear about this often, right? If you look up information about diversity in technology, they will tell you there is none, right? And if you Google it, that's what comes up. These are a couple articles I found. The one on the left, right? The one on the left is from Wired, and the one on the right is from PBS NewsHour. And things that they're saying is Black people, Latinos, and Native Americans are underrepresented in tech, right? And also, right, we have women, who make up 47% of the workforce, but only 27% of those are in computer jobs, right? Blacks accounted for 11% of the workforce, only 7% in computer science industry, and Hispanics are 15% of the workforce, but only 6% in computer jobs, right? This is some pretty rough stuff. So this is from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, right? So if you look at these graphs, the one on the left is distribution of men by occupation and their race, and then the one on the right is women. If you look at white men, you guys pretty much have the equal opportunity to be whatever you want to be in whatever field you want to be, right? And for everybody else, the numbers are a little bit more skewed, right? Especially for women, we're mostly in sales and service, right? And even for men, we've got more Asian men that are doing better for themselves in professional outlets, but Hispanic and African American men are still far behind, right? I am concerned with evening that out, right? And just for some more information, background, this is what the United States looks like in terms of ethnic groups. 72% white, 12.6% black, 0.9% Native American, 4.8% Asian, 0.2% Native Hawaiian, right? And then we got our other categories. And as far as women, in the United States, there's 51% women, 49% men, which makes those other numbers even more shocking. If a lot of Asian men and white men are running the professional sector, but Asians are only 4.8% of the population. So then let's talk a little bit about inclusion, right? This is another big problem attached to diversity. So we have a couple of phrases I took from those articles. The top one is from the PBS NewsHour. The way that affected us, women, was that we felt a little less comfortable asking questions. She said, even though a hallmark of technology industry is continuing learning, right? And then the problem is evident not only when it comes to hiring, but also retention. People of color who enter the tech industry leave the field at more than 3.5 times the rate of white men, right? We begin to see that the tech industry must confront a larger problem of systematic racial bias. So, people who are making it, the diversity you have, sometimes they feel like they're not a part of the group, right? And that is something that also needs to be addressed. Why does this matter? Right? And this is also in the Wired article. You should really check it out. I'm sure that I have it again. Evidence strongly suggests that a racial diverse tech sector could translate into stronger financial performance. A McKinsey report showed a linear relationship between racial and ethnic diversity in a company's financial performance. For every 10% increase in racial and ethnic diversity on the senior executive team, the report stated earnings before interest and taxes rise 0.8%. Right? So this is good for business. But not only is it good for business, it helps make financially solvent individuals, right? And when people are financially solvent, they can take care of their own finances. You get lower crime rates, right? People are no longer desperate when they have the resources they need. This will then strengthen communities, right? Strong communities are better for everybody, right? And of course, where are we going next? Better business. So, off of the heavy stuff, up to some uplifting stuff, okay? How to get the pie out of the sky, right? How do we bring that down? How do we increase diversity and we create an environment of inclusivity, right? Where people feel comfortable asking a question, where we're all friends and I can ask you something, you can help me with something. I don't feel like I'm going to be put in a corner. All right? So, here comes the library. The nature of libraries. The ALA, which sets the guides for libraries in America, has a set of core values. These are not all the core values, but these are a few of them. We are about access. We want to make sure everyone has access to information and resources that they need. We're all about diversity in our staffing and in our clientele. We want to make sure that our collections and the resources that we have reflect the diversity of the communities that we serve. Also, we're all about education and lifelong learning, just like the technology field. We're also all about the public good, service, and social responsibility. Okay? Now, the library, to me, and I'm a librarian, so I may be a little bit biased, is the center of the universe. Anything that you want to learn or that you need help with, you can get at the library. That's what we're here. We're just a resource. So if you want to learn how to code, you should be able to do that at the library. If you need help finding social services, you can get that at the library. If you need help with a resume, with a job, learning how to read, math tutoring, you can get that at the library. And in fact, my library does all those things. We also even have cooking classes. Like everything is at the library. So if you're not there, you should come. Yeah, we'll do it at the end. I work at the Parkman branch of Detroit Public Library. My support team is here. Okay. Another benefit to using the library is that the library already has resources built in. Because we're all about these core values, we already have an infrastructure laid out for you. If you want to actively engage the community, we've got computers and the internet. We also have workspace for you. We already have the audience that you're looking to reach at the library because people know that this is a service that we provide. They know that they can get all the things they need at the library. So those people are there. The people that need assistance are at the library already. Also, you have staff there who are willing to support new and innovative ideas. Libraries are always reinventing themselves. And therefore, staff like myself and other librarians, we're interested in whatever anyone's bringing. If you're a firefighter and you want to train kids up, hey, we're all about it. You want to teach them how to build a bench? We're all about it. We want to help you help people. Okay? The last thing, budget. My library does not have a standing budget for this sort of program. Some libraries do, however, and they will be more than willing to get you the funds you need to start a project. I am funded proudly by you guys at Pi Ohio last year, gave me a great donation to help me support my kids, and also by the Detroit Public Library Foundation, my support team over there. All right. Now, when I grow up, I want to be. Before I left for Pi Ohio, I walked around the library and I asked some kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? The top two I got was athlete, they want to play football or basketball, or police officer, right? The third highest was something that makes a lot of money, which is valid. It's totally valid, right? When I asked them, though, they said because athletes make a lot of money, right? Their reasoning was still that they want to make a lot of money, and to them, the only thing that they see in their community as a person who makes a lot of money that looks like them is an athlete, right? And I don't want that to be their only model, right? Athlete is not the only option for them to make a lot of money to become financially solvent, right? And then police officer was an interesting one. When I asked them why, there was a lot of girls and boys that wanted to be police officers. They said they want to protect their families and their communities, which is evident with some deeper issues in our community, right? But these kids are concerned about making money and about protecting their families. And with better opportunities for them, they can get those things, right? And some of the other fun stuff, somebody wanted to be a karate master, which super cool. And then we had some outliers, firefighter, veterinarian, doctor, and a cosmetologist, of all things. Yeah, that's exactly what she said, in fact. She did say cosmetologist. So let's talk about the opportunity at the library. When you are creating opportunity for these kids, they need to be introduced to things. When you were a kid, you probably had a lot of different opportunities. You probably got the chance to try some stuff out. These kids in this urban library, they don't have a lot of experiences. And I'll tell you this embarrassing story. We had an Asian gentleman come to the library, who's the director of Libraries Without Borders, to talk to some of our kids. And my kids asked him if he created Pokemon. Because they have never met an Asian person before. And so their only connection was Pokemon and anime. So they're like, did you create Pokemon? I was like, you can't ask him that. That's not okay, right? But had they had any contact with Asian people before, they might have known differently, right? So we want to create as many opportunities, let them put their hands on as many things as possible so they have the opportunity to grow up and to be engineers, to be software developers. We want to get this stuff in their face, in their hands, so they can see it, so they can have opportunity and know that there is something better, okay? So when we create opportunity at the library, there are three main things, and this works for opportunity anywhere. These are the three guidelines. One, you need to create an environment where people are comfortable learning, right? So this is the inclusivity part. You should be nice to other people, okay? They should feel comfortable around you, right? And if they spend more time with you, if you show up at places where they are, they will get more comfortable with you. Well, they can ask you questions. Like my kids ask me questions like, why don't you have any kids? How much money do you make? They feel very comfortable asking me a lot of things, right? And that's because I spend a lot of time with them, right? So spend time with people, create that environment. Also, you want to meet the needs of the people, okay? These kids live different lives. They have various backgrounds. Some people have different home lives. Some of these kids are 13 and they're babysitting their little siblings, right? They have very different life stories. You have to meet them where they are. If the 13-year-old wants to learn something, but they got a 6-year-old in tow, we take the 13-year-old and the 6-year-old. 6-year-old, here's some batteries and an LED, knock yourself out, right? While we teach the 13-year-old, we might teach them Tinkercad or we might do Python with them, right? We just meet them where they are. Whatever they need, we have to meet them where they are. You can't expect them to come and just program a website because they can't do that. All right? Once you've met the need and you've created an environment that is susceptible for learning, then what you can do is introduce them to something new and dynamic, right? If you want them to learn JavaScript, you say, hey, let's build this cool website, let's build killer robots. They're all about it. But you have to introduce these things after you meet the need and create the proper environment for them. And the last but not least, build a relationship. This is big for inclusivity. Once you build these relationships with these kids and these different people that you meet at the library, they won't feel like they're outsiders anymore. They won't feel like they have to be segregated when they go out into the job force. They'll say, oh, my friend Matt was there the whole time. He's always helped me out. So he asks my questions. I can ask this guy a question, right? You want to make them feel comfortable with those one-on-one relationships. So let's talk about a little bit more about what I actually do at the library. So for my kids, like I said, LEDs and batteries is wild for the kids. They love crayons. There's a styrofoam cup me as a robot with LEDs and my afro hair, right? My little kids love this activity. They want to make a robot. They always want to make a robot. I don't know any kid that doesn't want to make a robot. So no matter what you're asking them to do, they're like, when do we build the robots? So we got this idea. It's just paper cutouts. They're paper cutouts and LEDs and batteries. We're talking about circuits and about electricity, how power works. And they folded their own, and now they have a robot. And then what you get is the next step is they say, now how do you make it move, right? Now you're getting them to want to come back. They got something minute that they built with their own hands, something for them to be proud of. All of them requested these pictures. I was not going to take pictures. They were like, take a picture. I want to take a picture with you. Take a picture of mine too, right? And then they want to do more. The next step, they come up with it on their own. Down here at the bottom, we've done Minecraft Pie a couple of times now at my branch because the kids requested it. We did Minecraft, and we let them code. Once we taught them how to code a large square of TNT that explodes in Minecraft and like destroys your whole world, I mean, it was game over. That's all they were doing. They were like, oh, did you know the code? Let me show you how to do it. They're just all over the place, coding exploding TNT. And now they request that. They'll come up to me and they'll say, Miss Q, when are we doing another program? I was like, they've got coloring or art. She's like, no, not that. I want to do one of your programs. When are we going to do something else? They get really excited about these things. Down here in the middle is robot cars. We did robot cars because they wanted to make their paper robots move. And we strapped a paper robot to the top of it. Because now you have a complete project, right? This is not something that we did in the classroom setting. And it's not even something that we did in the course of a week or a month. These are things that we've done over the course of 2 years. All right. So let's talk about the guide for the instructor or the concerned citizen, right? Whichever you may be, whether you feel qualified to do this or not, right? How to learn to teach errors, okay? So in this room, you may be a perfectionist, right, of what you do. Is the code right? I don't like the way they wrote this. Is it buggy? You glitchy? Kids freak out about errors, okay? And people who are new to coding freak out about errors, okay? You don't want to say, oh, that's wrong. You have to learn how to teach the errors. Teach them that sometimes it will be wrong. Sometimes, like when we programmed that robot car, it did not move, and it was rough. I was like, don't cry. It's okay. This happens, right? You have to teach them that errors happen, right? You hit stumbling blocks, you try again, right? I had a kid who was so stressed out about the Minecraft and coding in Python. He's like, Miss Q, what is this red on the screen? Why is it red? I was like, it's like you spelled it wrong. You got to get the spelling together. And the next day he came back. He's like, look, Miss Q, I don't have any red on my page. He was super determined to clear that up. He's like, and it took him like 20 minutes to get like 2 lines of code. But he's like, there's no red, right? We have to learn to incorporate errors and failing into the way we teach these kids, right? So they know that it's not the end. Number 2, be flexible. This is just as important as teaching errors because you will find that when you teach a new group of people, you don't know what you're getting into, especially in the public library because people come as they are. For instance, I just taught a group of seniors about phones. I advertised a class for iPads and iPhones, And I got 13 people to sign up, and I got 5 people to show up. And when I asked them what device they said, they was like, I'm sure I have an iPhone and an iPad. And they had a collection of LG and Samsung Android devices. So everything I had planned had to be scrapped because nobody had what I actually planned for. And that'll happen because they don't know, right? So we scrapped that and we had to do something else. And that will happen when you have these sort of plans too, right? We had a buggy Raspberry Pi, we had to start over. We don't have cameras anymore, find something else, right? You have to be willing to be flexible. It's part of the teaching with errors, right? Number 3, be open. My kids tell me crazy stories all the time, and they also have ideas about how things should work. Sometimes things do not work as the way they say they should. One of my kids is very adamant that you can get people to do things you want if you know secrets about them. When I when I told him that was called blackmail and it was illegal, he was like, "But it works." And I was like, "Okay." Right? He doesn't fully get the concept, but I have to be open with him and listen to what he has to say to encourage him to do something else. Right? So you'll get those shocking moments where people tell you things and you're like, oh, okay, but let's maybe find a different way. Right? So the blackmail idea is not something you should allow to happen, but you should listen to it and then find something else. All right? What should a program look like? If you are reaching out to teach someone something at a library, what should it look like? It could be a conversation. It could just be you coming to the library, meeting some kids or some adults who are interested in the field and telling them what you do at work. It could be that simple, right? It could also be a group build, right? Like we built our robot car together. There were 5 kids that built that robot car, one robot car. And they don't mind sharing. If we have short of resources, they like to have their hands on something. They like to see it, say that I made this. Show it to their mom. Take pictures with it. Right? A photo shoot. Most recently, we built motion sensing Raspberry Pi cameras. And because the girls are like, we don't want to do that. We don't want to code. And they're just taking pictures. I was like, okay, well, let's take pictures. So we built a camera to take pictures. And they got to program the code, and they dressed themselves up, and they took pictures. And now they say, okay, where's the camera? I was like, I took it apart, put it back together, and you can take all the pictures you want. Right? Different ways to entice them, right? Or it could be a traditional classroom setting. For the Minecraft, when we teach kids Python for Minecraft, we have a traditional classroom setup to teach them the code first. Of course, after about 15 minutes, as soon as they learn a good bit of code, they completely abandon you. And they're off into Minecraft world, right? But there's no right or wrong to what this could look like. It could be anything. What is most important is that these kids get the exposure to these ideas and that they get to meet you and that you talk to them so they can put a face with an idea. All right? And this is one of my proudest moments, right? These are my kids. I've been doing this for 3 years. The picture on the left is really dark, but that's my first graduating class from what I like to call Parkman Coders, right? Where my kids come and learn computational thinking, right? And we teach them a little bit of Python to get through Minecraft and explode each other's worlds, right? And then this picture is one that I, whoops, too far. This picture is one that I took recently. 5 of the kids that I started with 3 years ago are still coming to these programs. 5 of them. So, and this is not something that is a regular class, right? This may just be like, hey, Miss Q is bored. I plug a Raspberry Pi up to a TV and we play Snake, right? These are inopportune moments. These are classroom things. Over 5 years, I got 5 kids who really stick with this, who are really like, this is for me, right? Over a long period of time. And so I'm really proud of that. And we do get a lot of kids that are transient. So some people just come in for a few days or for a few months and they still get to experience and they get to leave with that experience as well. So, it's a little bit about me. And we are nearly at the conclusion. I wanted to save some time for some questions at the end. This is me. This is my email. This is my Twitter. I want to say thank you to you guys for listening to me so patiently. Thanks to Matt. Thanks to Carl, wherever he is, who donated Raspberry Pis to my group last year. So we have tons of Raspberry Pis, and I've been giving them away to kids to take home with them, which is super cool. Thanks to the Detroit Public Library Foundation, my Rocks, my support team, who give me a lot of money for this. And I want to open the floor up to questions. Yeah. I can post it for you. Yes. I'll put a link on my Twitter. Yes. That is a good question. So my branch is probably the most dynamic with it right now. I am training other librarians slash making a manual to distribute it to other librarians in my system who want to do this. Because there are other librarians who are interested. They're just smarter than me, so they're scared to start. I wasn't smart enough to be scared before I got started. Yeah. So my background, I have an undergraduate degree in history and classical studies, and I am working on my master's in library science. So I have no background in technology or coding. I am the youngest librarian in my branch, and they were like, we should do something techy with the kids. Q, you're the youngest. You can do it. So that is how I got started. And since then, I have taught myself Python through a lot of books. I've been here at Pi Ohio with you guys, taking notes on you guys' talks. I've been to PyCon. I go out and I visit with people and I take notes and I learn and I read a lot of books. Thanks. You got another one? About moving into like a more formal program. Uh, So for me, and I've had this conversation with people at PyCon too, like what's the best way to, like how do you know that you're good at this? How do you keep working to it? And from the consensus I heard is to keep working on projects. So for my kids, I try to keep them in a project. If this is something they're really passionate about, I say, let's do a project. Pick something that you want to learn. We get the books. I make sure I find the resources for them, and we have them continuously work on projects. But it would be nice, if we could schedule a visit, have someone from the industry they want to work in come and sit down with them and say, hey, these are next steps you should think about or things that happen in the industry. I got one, two, three, four. um, Out of the five that I have continuously showing up, two of them are girls. Um, Raquel, who wants to be a writer and likes superheroes, is really good at this, and she really loves it. And math is her favorite subject. A lot of my girls, math is their favorite subject, which it is not mine. So they have. Yeah. So for the girls, it's a little bit more difficult. I feel like girls get the stigma of this is what you should do way earlier than you do as like the ethnic thing. So as a black kid, eventually you grow up and learn, but as a girl, they're always like, here's a baby doll, done. So for the girls, a lot of the time they're already all about Instagram or doing their hair. It takes a kind of backwards approach to get to them. I introduce it to via like the photo shoot thing, right? Do photo shoots. Try to meet them where they are now, what they expect, and then show them a different way to do it. Yeah. Um, how often? It is sporadic, depending on my schedule. We try to do every summer. We do try to do a month-long program, and when I get back, I'm going to do a program with microbits for a month. And then also we try to do one here and there, maybe once every 2 weeks, every 2 months. Sorry. So we might do something like throwies, something with small with circuits, or I might pull out the Raspberry Pis and let them have like a game day. But to play a game, they have to write a line of code or adjust code in the game before they can play it. Yeah. Mhm. Following up with them. Some of our kids are very transient, so I might only see them twice and never again. I am happy to know that they have seen it at least once in their life for those type of kids. And I do get kids who move away or they come back and visit and they say, "Hey, Miss Q, what are you doing?" So I do get that where they do come back, and when they don't, I'm just like, I'm glad that while you were here for those few moments, you got to like touch this or see it. I got you one in the back. There you go. No, no. In our community, most of the parents do general labor jobs or like customer service. So, and the parents don't really come to the library. They work long hours, and the kids are at the libraries by themselves. So we don't have a lot of parent involvement, and we don't have a strong person in our community who shows up to support these type of things. So that's what my kids asked me. Also, they were like, "I thought we were having pie. We're not having pie." Raspberry Pi is a mini computer. They cost about $25. The Raspberry Pi Foundation makes mini computers that are made specifically for teaching, coding, and for educational purposes. And every time you buy a Raspberry Pi, that is part of giving to the foundation. The Raspberry Pi Foundation also has a website that has a lot of resources for teaching and learning as well. But it's just a mini computer. Mhm. Because they're doing them. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. So, my kids and I have and I call them my kids, we have a pretty strong relationship. They tell me a lot of crazy things, including their blackmail stories about fights at school. They talk to me about a lot of things. And no one has brought to me that anyone told them that they couldn't do anything in particular. So I think they're very fortunate in that, where they don't have anyone actively speaking against what they want to do or about their hopes and dreams. Yeah. So at my library, I wanted to do this, and my first donation was from Detroit Public Library Foundation, and then also I just talked to people about my ideas. So when I would go to meetings, I would sit down and people say, "What are you working on?" I'd be like, "Well, this is what I'm working on. I want to teach these kids how to code." And I got a lot of people to personally just say, "You know what? I think that's cool. Here's money." I am not good with math or money or business. So I am not good at raising money. That's what I have these people here for, to get money for me, because I'm not good at asking. But I think my passion for it shines through, and then people want to help me. So I'm lucky. Don't use that as a plan. Like, have a. Yes. 7 to 13. So yes, you're like right on. None of my kids are in high school yet, and for my branch, a lot of my kids, I have mostly the same kids, like growing up with me at the library. We don't have a large group of high schoolers at our branch at all. We only have maybe two or three. Yeah. So they just work with the younger kids, and then I hire them as my interns for the summer, and they do the same stuff anyway. I just pay them so they get work experience, and they get to be a little bit bossy with the older kids. So yes, I got one. No, Detroit public school system is a little bit tricky. No one has approached me for anything like that. There are a couple high schools in Detroit that do have some STEM programs where they're working on coding, but not that I know that are very prevalent. That one in the back. And then I see you. That was your question too. Great minds think alike. Mhm. Yes, and I have thought about that and have not executed it yet. So yes, that is a good idea and a reminder for me to get on top of that. I saw her and then you and then you. Yes, you. Yes. If you want to reach out to your local library, librarians are really nice and they will talk to you. Okay? If you go to your local library, you want to ask for the librarian in charge, right? Who's ever in charge of programming, and then tell them your idea or tell them you talk to me. They can email me too. Give them my email address, say this other librarian is doing this. If they want resources or help from me, I'm totally willing to do that or share. But just say, hey, I have an idea and this is what I want to do. Libraries are generally very open to doing things like that, especially if you have an idea or a plan. If you need help with an idea or a plan, email me. It goes off better if you have a plan. Right? Yes, sir. Yes. I have not planned any field trips for them yet, mostly because they were pretty young early on. But yes, that is a hope that we would like to take them to something like that, a maker fair. Also, I would like to have them have their Raspberry Pi Jam, which is essentially a maker fair for Raspberry Pi things. Have them show their work at the library and invite other people to come and see as well. Mhm. Uh-huh. Okay. I will also take that down. Thank you, sir. Did you? Okay. Yes. No, but they ask all the time. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Yep, that's a great point. For the adults, well, the difference is with the kids, I can be a little bit more loosey goosey because their attention spans are that of an ant. So it's okay if I come, leave them and come back. For the adults who really want a job, they're like really like on it. So for them, I am trying to develop a different method. For the kids, it's easy to have them do a hands-on a project and learn, but we do want the environment to also be, susceptible for adults who are trying to change their job field as well. And for that, we're working on a different method called learning circles. Yeah. Any other questions or comments, concerns, funny stories, peculiar sayings? All right. Oh, one. Yeah, a lot of puns. All right. Again, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your time and your attention and your support. Can I tell you that? Thanks.
She made that look easy, right? Just talking to a room full of people for an hour, answering questions. Um, I don't like following that. So Q came last year. She made an offhand remark during a presentation that she was turning away kids because of the fact that she only had enough Raspberry Pis to do, so many. I thought, my mind is thinking that's absurd. There's enough loose change at Pi, Ohio that we could make that problem go away. So we quickly set up, an online charity, and within a week, she had that problem solved. This year, you can go to dplfound.org/donate. Am I saying that right? Okay, just dplfound.org. I'm not personally saying you ought to. I'm saying if that what you heard today inspired you, this is a method you could use. Is that clear? So I'm not telling you that we're not taking a personal thing. I'm just saying that information exists. So that's dplfound.org. It's the Detroit Public Library Foundation, and that is your money's going to programs like this. All right, so that's it. We're going to break until 10 o'clock, and then we're going to do the opening remarks, and then we'll talk through the rest of the stuff. But thanks, everybody, for coming out.